There comes a point when she realizes no one is coming to rescue her. Not the family that told her to shrink. Not the friends who call her too much. Not the lovers who mistake her depth for drama. She has tried over and over to explain what she feels, that her intuition isn't madness, that her empathy isn't weakness, that her silence isn't distance, but the world doesn't listen. It measures worth in noise, and still she listens to the pulse beneath conversations, to the tremor behind someone's smile, to the truth that others bury under logic. There are women who do not belong to any time, women who walk through this world as if through a dream they've already seen, half here, half beyond. You know her, or maybe you are her. She senses what's about to collapse, long before anyone admits it. People speak around her, but she hears the spaces between their words. She feels when something isn't true, and for that, she is feared, not because she is wrong, but because she is right too soon. From the outside she looks calm, maybe even cold, but inside her lives an ocean that remembers everything the world has forgotten. The world does not yet know what to do with a spiritually intelligent woman. It will romanticize her intuition when it's convenient, and crucify her discernment when it isn't. It will say she's too emotional, until her emotions predict the truth. It will call her too intense until her intensity saves someone's life. It will name her too deep, when what it really means is too alive. She becomes the mirror everyone avoids, because when she looks at you, you don't just see her, you see yourself. And most people would rather stay blind. So she learns to dim her light just enough to be tolerated, but never so much that she forgets who she is. Until one day that compromise becomes unbearable. Her body begins to reject smallness. Her soul starts to ache for truth. Every cell in her being whispers, "You cannot stay asleep." And even though she knows the cost, the loss, the exile, the silence, she chooses to wake up anyway. That's not rebellion. That's evolution. Carl Jung wrote that individuation, the process of becoming your true self, is never comfortable and rarely admired. It's a tearing away from the collective trance, a breaking of inherited illusions, a return to what is raw, sacred, and undeniably yours. Loneliness is not your punishment. It's your initiation. It's the space where the false falls away, where your voice stops echoing what others want to hear and starts resonating with what you truly know. The absence of support isn't a sign that you're unworthy. It's a sign that you're crossing thresholds most people fear to approach. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are being refined, in silence, in solitude, in sacred disobedience. The pain of being misunderstood, that's the birth cry of the authentic self. It hurts because you are expanding beyond the language of approval. This is the territory Jung called the dark night of individuation. It's where every spiritually intelligent woman must walk through the forest of others' projections, until she realizes none of them belong to her. The gossip, the jealousy, the disbelief, they are just the shadows people throw when your light burns too brightly. So no, you're not too much. You're simply luminous in a world still learning to see. When no one claps for you, when no one understands your mission, when your clarity feels like isolation, you are not being judged. You are being initiated. It is the initiation of those who lead consciousness forward, the unseen women who hold frequencies the rest of the world hasn't yet evolved to translate. This isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about remembering that solitude is sacred space, not social failure. Because every visionary, every mystic, every woman who dared to see truth before it was safe, walked this same path. They were called crazy, until history called them prophets. They were called dangerous, until time called them necessary. You belong to that lineage. The lineage of those who carry light into a blind world. There is an old story. A woman wakes before dawn and walks into the fog. Every morning she carries seeds in her hands, tiny, fragile, invisible to the eyes of others. Neighbors watch from their windows and whisper, "What is she doing? Nothing grows in this mist." They laugh, then turn away. But she keeps walking. She plants anyway. Because she feels something in the air. a pulse the others cannot hear. And years later, when the fog finally lifts, they find a forest where she once walked alone. They call it a miracle. She calls it Tuesday. This is who you are. You plant what the world cannot yet recognize. You carry the future inside you before it has language. And yes, it costs you everything, your belonging, your comfort, sometimes your sanity. But it also gives you something no one else holds: the ability to see the invisible architecture of destiny. Carl Jung wrote that every woman who awakens this deeply meets three visitors: the shadow, the self, and the silence. The shadow arrives first. It is the part of you you've been trained to fear: your anger, your clarity, your hunger for truth. Society tells you these are flaws. But Jung warned, what you repress, you become possessed by. The moment you embrace them instead, they stop ruling you. You become whole. So when the anger comes, let it speak. When the grief rises, let it teach. They are not enemies. They are messengers saying you have outgrown the mask that kept you small. Then comes the self, the vast intelligence beneath personality. It speaks in dreams, synchronicities, sensations. It moves like current beneath your decisions. It doesn't shout, it knows. When you follow that knowing, life rearranges itself around your truth. Paths appear, people align, the impossible softens open. This is not luck, this is resonance. And finally, the silence. It is not emptiness, it is integration. It is the moment you stop explaining, stop defending, stop seeking applause. You realize the ones who truly see you do not need proof. And those who demand proof will never see you, even if you bleed stars before their eyes. The shadow initiates you, the self guides you, the silence crowns you. That is the trinity of spiritual intelligence. Logic asks, is it real? Spirit asks, is it alive? Logic looks for data, spirit listens for resonance. Logic needs permission, spirit simply moves. You have spent years translating one into the other, trying to make intuition sound rational so it can be accepted. But your wisdom was never meant to be explained. It was meant to be embodied. The feminine mind does not argue, it reveals, it does not conquer. It includes, and that inclusion terrifies a world built on hierarchy. They call it chaos because it cannot be controlled, but it is not chaos. It is creation in its original language. If you carry this intelligence, you must ground it, or it will drown you. Jung called it containment, the art of holding sacred fire without burning. Here are your 4 vessels. 1. Inner validation. Each morning, place your hand on your heart and name 3 invisible victories. The moments no one saw but that kept you alive. This trains the psyche to recognize itself without applause. Recognition is nourishment. Feed yourself first. 2. Gentle discipline, devotion, not punishment. 30 minutes a day to nurture what moves your soul. Write, paint, meditate, walk. Whatever carries your current forward. Discipline is love in motion. It is you today taking care of you tomorrow. 3. The body's truth. Your body is not decoration. It is an oracle. Decisions that expand your chest, soften your belly, brighten your skin. Those are yes. Choices that make you contract are no, even if they seem logical. The nervous system never lies. Learn its language. 4. The golden boundaries. Say no where your energy is mocked or drained, not in anger, but in reverence. Boundaries are not walls. They are altars marking where the sacred begins. Each no creates room for your yes to bloom. Do these not as rituals of control, but as acts of remembering. Remembering that your power is not a performance, it is a pulse. They told you your vision was unrealistic, your emotions, inconvenient, your knowing, dangerous. But the truth is reversed. You were not too much for the world was not yet enough for you. The future is already fluent in your language. It is the present that still stutters. When they call you dramatic, it's because you feel before they do. When they call you intimidating, it's because your clarity exposes their pretenses. When they call you lonely, it's because few can breathe at your altitude. You are not defective. You are developing ahead of schedule. Viktor Frankl called it the search for meaning, the ability to make sense of suffering, not to escape it. Simone de Beauvoir called it becoming, a woman's refusal to be defined by anything smaller than her own truth. Each of them spoke of the same silent revolution, the moment you stop being a reflection and start being a source. Modern psychology is finally catching up to what mystics have always known, that heightened sensitivity is not weakness, it's bandwidth. Highly empathic and intuitive brains show amplified activity in what scientists call the mirror neuron system. It means your brain literally feels more data per second than the average mind. You don't overreact, you over-receive. You register the tone under words, the tension behind a smile, the truth beneath the disguise. Your nervous system is not broken, it's finely tuned to frequencies that most people never notice. Of course it feels heavy. You are processing the world in high definition while others are still watching in low-resolution belief. And when that data floods your body, you may mistake it for anxiety, exhaustion, even despair. But sometimes what feels like too much is simply your system adjusting to more reality. You were born with an instrument that plays the symphony of the unseen. No wonder it overwhelms you. No wonder you need silence to recalibrate. There's a phrase circulating among modern thinkers, the burden of intelligence. It describes the paradox of awareness, how those who perceive the most often carry the deepest sorrow. Because to see the structure of pain is to feel responsible for healing it. To sense the world's dissonance is to ache for harmony. But that ache is sacred. It's the compass of evolution inside you saying, this is where consciousness must grow. Virginia Woolf once wrote, "You cannot find peace by avoiding life." And Emily Dickinson whispered through her poems, "Tell all the truth but tell it slant." Both knew the same secret you do, that truth is too bright to stare at directly. You must translate it through art, tenderness, and time. So when it hurts to know, remember, it's not because you're fragile. It's because you're absorbing light that has nowhere else to go yet. You're feeling for a generation that still numbs itself to feeling. You're seeing for a culture that forgot how to look. You are not broken. You are early. You are the prototype of a consciousness still in design. Awareness without grounding becomes suffering. But awareness with purpose becomes power. This is the alchemy your soul is learning. To turn perception into creation, sensitivity into service, empathy into embodiment. Nietzsche would call it the will to transcend. Frankl would call it the meaning of pain. A neuroscientist would call it neuroplastic adaptation, your brain rewiring itself through resilience. But you know what it really is. Spirit sculpting form. Every time you survive a wave of intensity without closing your heart, you rewire your system to hold more life. Every time you choose to stay open in a world that rewards detachment, you expand the collective field. Science calls it coherence. Spirit calls it grace. You might simply call it growing up into your full light. So yes, seeing too much can feel like bleeding. But it's also the gift of the seer, the architect, the healer, the one who births new paradigms through her perception. Do not apologize for how much you feel, or notice, or know. You are the early wave of a rising intelligence, spiritual, emotional, biological. When you rest, you are integrating evolution. When you create, you are translating the unseen into form. And when you love despite knowing everything that can go wrong, you are the bravest kind of human there is. Now take that knowing, and let's turn it into power. There is a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when the woman who was once seeking becomes the one creating. She begins to build her life as an artist builds a temple, slowly, with reverence, with her bare hands. She no longer asks, "Who will understand me?" She asks, "What can I create from this truth?" And creation answers. She writes, she speaks, she plants, she heals, not to be seen, but because the energy demands expression. Her solitude becomes architecture. Her discipline becomes devotion. Her boundaries become the frame of her masterpiece. The world that once ignored her begins to shift, not because she begged for recognition, but because reality itself starts to rearrange around her integrity. This is how the feminine leads, not by conquest, but by coherence. She doesn't force alignment. She becomes alignment, and everything that resonates finds its way to her. You see, spiritual intelligence isn't about floating away from the world. It's about descending fully into it, without losing your light. The ancient mystics called this Jungian, the sacred marriage between heaven and earth, between soul and skin, between knowing and being. It is the moment the divine stops being a theory and starts breathing through your human form. You no longer chase transcendence, you embody it, you cook with it, you love with it. You speak truth, not as performance, but as pulse. You realize enlightenment was never about escaping life, it was about becoming so present that even the ordinary drips with God. You stop separating sacred and mundane. The way sunlight touches your shoulder is prayer enough. The sound of your laughter, holy enough. The act of saying no to what drains you, worship enough. You are no longer split between mystic and woman, you are both, entirely. So when the world still misunderstands you, when people call your depth difficult or your clarity cold, smile gently. They cannot see yet, but they will. Because you no longer live to be seen, you live to see. You walk not to prove, but to radiate, not to convince, but to create. You are no longer waiting for life to choose you, you are shaping it with every breath. And every woman who watches you rise will remember something ancient inside herself, a whisper saying, "Me too, I was never broken, only becoming." So walk through the fog like a queen through her cathedral, carry the silence like a song, build your world from truth, and when they ask how you did it, you'll smile and say, "I stopped asking for light, I became it." If these words found you, don't let them fade, save this moment, because sometimes one small act of remembrance opens an entirely new horizon. And if there's a woman you love, a sister, a friend, a soul who's forgotten her own light, share this with her. Let her remember who she's always been. Tag her in the comments, the one in whom you've seen this quiet, unstoppable power, the one you wish could see it in herself, because awakening isn't a solo journey, it's a ripple. And your ripple might be the reason another woman rises. So keep moving with grace. Keep listening to that quiet knowing inside you. It's not madness, it's memory. Every time you honor it, you call more light into the world. Until our paths cross again, stay on your frequency. The world is tuning, and it's your note that leads the way.